One of the things that I wanted everybody to understand is that since 1981, when I got into the real estate business, I have had 40 clients whose spouses have passed away and they did not have a trust. And that was just so heartbreaking because in my mind, when someone passes away, the family needs to be able to take care of, their life. They don't have to worry about going back to work tomorrow. They need to be able to heal and to take care of their children. And so I found that when I sell somebody a home, I always tell them, please, you guys, connect with Tracy or any attorney that you know. Get yourself a trust and get some life insurance so that if something was to happen, at least you're financially able to take care of yourself and to heal. And so that was the reason that I wanted Tracy to come, to maybe chat with all of you guys and to let you know what she can do in order to get a trust.
In the state of California, if you own a house or own land, you really have to have a trust. You cannot just have a will. A will is great, but it only controls the disposition of the assets in the probate court. What is the goal of estate planning? I want to control my property while I'm alive and able, take care of myself and my loved ones if I become disabled, and give what I have to whom I want, the way I want, and when I want, while saving every tax dollar, professional fee, and court cost possible. Is that not the perfect definition of what we want to do with our money? Because we work so hard, we want to control where it goes. We don't want the state of California, and we don't want the government to control it. And that's what a trust does. It gives you complete and total control of how your assets are going to be disposed of. This is what estate planning is all about. Estate planning is about taking care of everything you own and everyone you love. Over 70% of Americans don't have an estate plan, and over 90% don't have disability provisions. If I have a will when I die, things will work out fine. Actually, it doesn't in California. So a will guarantees probate. You're giving problems to your spouse or your loved ones. Sometimes you're going to have an unintentional disinheritance. So if someone was married and the surviving spouse only receives one third of the estate, the kids get the other 2/3. In a probate, let's say a husband dies first, the surviving spouse receives only 1/3 of all of the monies that you guys have worked for, and the estate, the house. The kids get 2/3. That's not how it's supposed to be. It's the surviving spouse should get the entire estate to take care of themselves, but not in a probate. My probate fees tend to be on a minimum estate of $300,000, a minimum of $7,000. Your assets become public knowledge. It takes a minimum of 9 months. A lot of my clients, what happens is they get solicited personally at their own home by realtors, but also by probate specialists, by people who want to help sell their estate. A will is only effective on death. A trust is not, and it doesn't provide for disability, like what I just said. When you have a revocable living trust, a will's different. Your trust is like a car. When you buy a brand new car, if you don't put gas in it, it doesn't run. A trust is like that. You draft the trust, you pay for the trust, but if you don't put your assets in the trust, we've got to do a new grant deed, we've got to put your stocks in the trust, we've got to get a hold of your stockbroker, we got to go to the bank and put the assets in the trust. If a trust is handwritten but the assets haven't been put in the trust, guess what? We're in probate court. Without proper estate planning, we must involve the probate court to transfer property. The probate court will appoint a person with authority to sell the real estate. You have to notify creditors and the state and wait a minimum of 4 months before you can clear title. You have court involvement, which results in delay, expense, and headache. So what happens is when you file for probate also, just like a trust, you have creditors. I just filed a probate and immediately got a notice from a creditor to pay off the credit card. That's okay, we have to take care of those things, but people come out of the woodwork claiming money out of the estate. That's one thing that you won't have to deal with in a trust. That's the first thing. Second thing is you have a minimum 9 months to wait for a probate to be closed. In a trust, you can possibly distribute assets sooner. It depends upon the nature of your estate. But in I mean, a lot of my trusts, I have one 4 years, I have one 2 years, I have one that I think the minimum I've ever been able to get it done is like 7 months. So it takes a lot longer. It takes a long time. And part of it's because when you file a petition for probate, the court system's so backed up that I can't get a hearing date for 5 months. So I just have to sit there and wait. It's really the court system that's part of the issue. Every titling of an asset or situation, it comes down to your life circumstances and what works best for you in that moment. What I do have to say is that the one thing that kind of just puts you guys at rest forever is doing a revocable living trust. And what I mean by that is you draft a revocable living trust July 1st, you sign it July 30th, guess what? You don't have to worry about any of this stuff. You're done. Why? Because now you know who's going to get your assets. You know who's going to be the successor trustee. You know that they're not going to bicker because there's a no contest clause in the trust, or you're going to try not to get people to bicker. It's still the best way to do it. But what I'm trying to say is there's other options depending upon the circumstances. Why can't I just give my property outright to my kids or loved ones? Number 4, because there's predators and fortune hunters. If your child, I have a son, I don't know if he's going to be mature at 25. Most boys are they mature a little bit later. They're going to want to buy the GT Cobra Mustang at 25 when they get their hands on a fortune. They're not thinking about, I need to worry about 60, when I'm 60 and 70. For some reason, maybe girls are a little bit better. But young kids, if they come into an inheritance soon, they may be out of that money very quickly. That's why you do a trust, because you can also control that as well. Immature heirs, which is kind of like the kids, in-laws, loved ones with personal struggles, again. If I have actually done a a couple of them, revocable living trusts, where the children are 40 and they will never see their estate, but they will, for the next 30 years, get X amount of dollars every month. Why? Because they don't know how to not go into debt. They would spend it in 5 days. And so what I've done is I've drafted trusts where I've said, okay, if this child lives to 75, okay, give him his money, forget it, whatever's left over. But from 40 to 75, if I'm not around, you need to hire a fiduciary, somebody like a CPA, and they're going to give money every month to my child so that, number one, the creditors can't go after the big lump sum, but they have enough to live on, and I emotionally know that my child's going to be taken care of. That is a huge deal in my world. In my world, I do a lot of trusts with a provision called a lifetime trust inside of it. And parents love that because they can take care of their kids. And that's the whole goal now that I have a child. We're adopted. I didn't have him, but we're adopting. And I've waited 25 years to have a child. It gives me a whole nother reason to work. And I'm working hard for him. And I don't want it to go to the government and the state, and so the trust is going to help. So, okay, estate planning basics. There's 4 types of estate plans. There's no planning. There's title-based planning, which we just covered. There's will-based planning, which we'll discuss a little bit more. And then there's living trust-based planning. Number 5, a better way to transfer property to my children. Considering transferring your assets in trust. It provides asset protection against predators, creditors, divorce, and lawsuit. Your child can become a trustee of their trust at a specified age. The surviving spouse is able to benefit, and it stays in the family bloodline. There's so many ways that I can structure inheritance to children and inheritance to heirs. It doesn't have to be just children. It can be nieces and nephews. It can be charities. We do a lot of charity stuff, but it's a way to be able to control how the money goes out. In conclusion, not understanding that the biggest enemy is not the IRS. We've met the enemy, and he is us. I know that's kind of terrible, but we're our worst enemies sometimes. Estate planning is the art and science of overcoming procrastination and doing something that brings peace of mind for you and your loved ones.